Buying a smartphone is already a daunting task, but even more difficult is figuring out and choosing which company to go for in the long run. In today's video, I would be discussing with you the 5 key things to keep in mind before purchasing your next smartphone and choosing which company to go for. Let's begin. Now, first and foremost is the ecosystem that you're going to be part of. Now, you might have heard this word ecosystem many times on some articles or some other YouTube videos or some other resources. Now, first of all, let's understand what this ecosystem thing is all about. Ecosystem simply means that you are kind of being part of a small or a big community. Since you are being part of that community and that ecosystem, it becomes easier for two people to kind of interact with each other. Like sharing data, information is extremely easy. But if someone from outside tries to interact with that ecosystem, it becomes difficult for them. Easiest example to understand is Apple. If you have any of the product from Apple, but other products are from some other company, you might have faced this difficulty many times that it's extremely difficult to kind of make your Apple product interact with products from different companies, because Apple has such a huge fan base and they have built a community around that particular thing. So it becomes easier for anyone who is part of that Apple community to share the data, to interact with those people who are within that community. But then if you have some other smartphone, let's say from Samsung or from any other company, then it becomes difficult for you to interact with the Apple community. So my whole point in this ecosystem thing is that I'm not bashing Apple here at all. I'm not saying anything against them. Apple is a great company. They make great products. But then if you choose to buy a specific smartphone from a specific company, then make sure of one thing, that whatever future products you have to purchase, such as wireless headphones or any other accessories that you're planning to buy in the future, you ultimately have to buy the same company's accessories. For example, if you have an Apple iPhone, it doesn't make any sense at all for you to go and buy a wireless headphones from some other company. Let's say from Samsung, their Galaxy earbuds, or Google's earbuds, or Huawei's FreeBuds. It doesn't really make any sense. The products are great, but then since it's an Apple product, it doesn't really go with that. Same thing happened with me when I moved on from iPhones to the Android community, and in Android I specifically purchased Huawei phone. When I started using my Apple AirPods with my Huawei phone, they did work, but then the experience wasn't seamless and it wasn't convenient for me on a day-to-day basis. So ultimately I had to sell off my Apple AirPods, and then I ultimately bought the Huawei FreeBuds 3. So if I have to decide between Apple AirPods and Huawei FreeBuds 3, like sound quality, the convenience is extremely equal. But then since I have a Huawei phone, it makes more sense to have the FreeBuds 3 or the wireless headphones from the very same company. So that's the whole point of the ecosystem. So whenever deciding to buy a smartphone, always think of the future products that you might want to buy. So always choose the right ecosystem. Always choose a company based on what sort of ecosystem do they have. Second thing to keep in mind before deciding which smartphone company to go for is their reputation in the market and any sort of previous news, any sort of controversies related to them. So I'm specifically talking about Huawei here. Now, I love Huawei. To be honest, the phone that I currently use is Huawei Nova 5T, and it's the best smartphone I've ever used in my life, period. But the problem with Huawei nowadays is, you all know about it, the US has banned it to use any of or to interact with any companies in US. So now it doesn't matter how great of a product or how great of a smartphone Huawei makes, it really doesn't make any sense to buy a Huawei product now. Why? Because no YouTube, no Facebook, and there are a few other apps which will not work in the Huawei phone and the Google Play Store. So since they have cut off all the ties with them, so it doesn't really make any sense to go for Huawei nowadays. So always look out for the company's reputation and their controversies or any sort of issues or any data breaches that they might have done in the past, which can affect their future relationships with Google or Apple, or basically US, I would say, since it's the superpower of the world. So we have to make sure that when we decide a company that we want to go for, always see that what sort of relations do they have with the other companies, or has there been any sort of disputes in the past which might affect not just the company, but you as an individual, as a consumer as well in the future. Third thing to look out for is their recent products. Like, let's say if you decide to buy a product or a smartphone from a specific company, just see their previous history for about 2 to 3 years and see what sort of products have they actually launched. Have those products been successful, or have they had any sort of controversies or issues with them? Now, for example, if I talk about Samsung, for a long time they were struggling with their software, the UI, that the user interface that they were using in their phones. It doesn't matter how much RAM or how much of a great processor they were offering in their phones, but still their smartphones after a while used to hang, used to lag a bit, or let's say just stopped working just because of their software. Hardware was great. So that was the period when I as an individual never really thought of buying a Samsung phone, and the reason was I knew, doesn't matter how great it works on day one, after 6 months later down the line, it's definitely going to lag, or it's definitely going to slow down a lot. So always see that, has that company, now I'm not saying just isolate that company forever. You never know when that company bounces back from their drawbacks or from their setbacks. Always see what issues has that company been facing in the last years, and have they resolved it or not. That's the main thing. Number 4, and according to me the most important thing, is never ever buy a smartphone based on their future promises. I again repeat, never do that. Always see if a company is offering a smartphone, are you happy with the performance, the design, the battery, everything as of now? Company might come up and say, okay, we are working on the software, it will increase the battery life to 20% extra and all that stuff. I'm not saying don't believe them, they might end up doing it, but then that's not really a guarantee from the company. They are working on it, doesn't mean it has been completed. In the past, there has been many instances that companies have promised something before launching their product and eventually just forgot about it, or let's say didn't really made that thing happen, just delayed it that long that by that time person just changed their smartphone completely. So never buy a smartphone based on their future promises, just buy if you're happy with the way they are right now. Now, last point, now you might not agree with me on this one, but then just hear me out. Never buy a smartphone based on a cheap price or a cheaper price. Always go for the company's reputation. Now, as I said, you might not agree with me on this point, but just understand my point of view here. So there's a company which is offering a smartphone for $500, and then there's a company which is offering a smartphone for $400. Which one would you pick? Now, for me, I'm not saying money isn't everything and all that stuff. You definitely have to stick to your budget while buying a phone. But if you are looking for a cheaper alternative, just see the company's reputation first. That has that company got enough strength even, or is that company just came yesterday or let's say 6 months ago and now claiming big that they will make their smartphones to the next level, it's going to be the next Apple and whatnot. Always see their reputation. I would any day, anytime prefer buying a $500 smartphone as compared to $400 smartphone, because if I know that this thing is going to last me for another 3 years versus there is no guarantee that this thing will even last me for next 6 months, in the longer run, you obviously know which smartphone is going to be a cheaper alternative for you. So just for saving few dollars, do not jeopardize your complete experience, because if, trust me, you're not happy with your smartphone experience, one day or another, and I'm talking about 5-6 months down the line, you would definitely want to change that thing, because smartphone is something you carry with you every single day, and obviously you don't want to look at something which you do not even like, which you can't even use properly, which is giving you problems every day. So these are my 5 key pointers that anyone should look after before choosing their smartphone company, because ultimately smartphones are not something that you change on a day-to-day basis. You have to stick with them for a good amount of time. So always look out for these 5 key pointers. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you found a bit of value in this one. If you did, please make sure to hit the like button. And if you're new to this channel, consider subscribing, because I would be coming up with a lot of videos in the near future. And also do make sure you check out my other videos too. If you have any sort of questions in regards to this video or any other video that I've posted before, do make sure you leave a comment down below. I'll definitely get back to you. And with that, you have a great day. I'll see you guys in the next video.